At school, I originally wanted to be a policeman, and then I did my work experience with the police and realised that I'd probably run away if someone tried to confront me with a crime. So I thought, no, maybe not that's best. So then I thought wearing a white coat in a lab would be quite interesting. So I took that aspiration into college, and again, being honest, I came out with some A levels which weren't great, and I ummed and ahed about going to university to do environmental hazards. Now, it was a bit of a step down from the marine biology degree that I also wanted to do, but whilst I was umming and ahhing that, a couple of my friends were going out a lot because they had jobs with their dads, ironically. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to just get a job instead. So I joined Portsmouth Water Company as a laboratory technician. So that was kind of my first route in, and I achieved the goal straight away of wearing a white coat because I was able to do that, and I came in to do chemistry, and that was things like looking at doing things like titration, stability analysis, kind of colour analysis, conductivity, pH analysis, etc. And about a couple of years in, they had a bit of a restructure in the lab, and some opportunities came up which said you needed a degree to be the next kind of level up, which is what was called a water quality scientist, which I didn't have. So I approached the lab manager at the time and said, I'd like to kind of put myself in the frame for an opportunity going forward. And luckily enough, Portsmouth Water paid for me to do my degree. It was a BSc in what was called applied science, and I was able to pick certain units within the university prospectus. Ironically, some of the same units I would have done if I'd done marine biology or environmental hazards. But I would also substitute that with work-based projects. So I would do kind of like a couple of what I guess dissertation type projects and submit those in for marking. So that was a 3-year degree, which I graduated in 2006, and again, quite luckily enough, I was able to kind of get that role a year later, following a bit of a restructure. Around that time, it was the same time I joined the Institute of Water. It was because my HR manager at the time basically filled the application form in, got the MD to sign it, and then said, you better sign that because the managing director signed it. So I was like, okay. I didn't know what it was about, I just signed it. And then a few months later, I was at my first conference, like the national conference that I outlined earlier, standing next to said managing director in a tuxedo in Walkabout, which was a bit surreal at the time. But again, just going down the Institute of Water journey, from that I joined the South East Area Committee as a young person's kind of representative. I then was able to become secretary of that committee and then chair, and from that I was then invited to join the board, and then I did a term as national chair, which 2-3 years ago. So again, there's a number of roles and opportunities you can get through Institute of Water. I also assess CPDs, I assess science professional registration as well, and as of yesterday I now chair the Institute of Water's Finance Committee. So lots of opportunities, and going back to Rishi's point about networking, that organisation has opened so many different doors because of the networking and things which is open to you. So if you do become a member of any professional body, there are others there, it's not just Institute of Water. I would kind of really push the networking and chucking yourself in at the deep end and getting involved in stuff. So after I became water quality scientist, that was at the chemistry lab. It then, again, another restructure. Restructure is always where the opportunities happen in a way, so you want to be kind of position yourselves to take advantage of any of these. I also took on the management of the microbiological side of the lab as well, and I did that for another 3 years. Portsmouth Water, unlike Welsh Water, is a water-only company, and it's quite small. hence the name Portsmouth Water. And so what they do, if they don't have the kind of training and development opportunities that you have in a larger water company, so their own training is they kind of take you out of your comfort zone and throw you into a different role within the business. So that's what they did, and they said, right, although your whole background and career is in water quality, you can go into distribution and look at leakage and DOMS, which is distribution operation management. So that was all quite new. And then a couple of months after that, they gave me emergency planning and security. Now, being a bit of a self-confessed James Bond geek, I found this bit really interesting, and I quickly kind of didn't get too much involved in leakage after that, because this bit was way more interesting. So I did that for 4 years, and essentially developed plans, etc., for the company. And then an opportunity came up to join the Drinking Water Inspectorate, and they are one of the regulators of water quality in England and Wales. And so I was successful and joined them. They're a kind, because of what they do, you are kind of the, you can basically walk, in that role, you can walk into a water company and say, I'm going to audit you, and you will do pretty much exactly what I say. So a little bit of power, didn't go to my head much, but it was a really good role because it allowed me to visit a number of different water companies and get involved. DWI work as an arm of DEFRA, so there was a bit of government working there and a bit of wider exposure to government work and legislation, etc. And about 4 years in, I was assigned Welsh Water as a liaison role. So I was the go-between between DWI and Welsh Water. And so I, again, had lots of meetings in our lab, which was down the road with our water quality teams. And at the back end of 2019, there was the head of water quality at the time approached me after one of our meetings and said there may be a role which you could be good at. So I did a bit more investigating and had some meetings, and then went for the interview and was successful and joined Welsh Water in January 2020 as a head of emergency planning and security. And as some have alluded to already, and I've discussed previously, the emergency planning bit is very much making sure we're ready to respond to any outage. Customers get a little bit angsty when we don't have water, and we're quite heavily regulated. So DWI is just one of at least 4 regulators where we have to kind of answer to, NRW being another, Ofwat being another, and CCW is another as well. And so we need to respond, we need to make sure we communicate, we need to make sure we look after vulnerable customers, and we have the right management techniques in place to successfully manage incidents, etc. So that's part of the role. When I joined in 2020, I had kind of 2 months what I call normal Welsh Water, where it said everyone was in the office. It was the parking that you saw today it was 10 times worse as back then. You probably wouldn't even be able to get in this meeting room because everyone had meetings, etc. And then we had Storm Dennis, which kind of wiped out one of our treatment works. So that was a bit of jumping into the deep end. And then COVID hit. So given my job title, a lot of people blamed me for that, still, somehow. But it was I guess, a good time to come in from my own point of view to kind of implement some bits and pieces within the company to help us get through COVID. And then, and then from up to date now, I've got a bit more of a bigger team than I had when I first started. I've taken on another element of the business, which was wholesale service as well. And we're now at a place where we're kind of pushing a bit more into other areas with more future legislation. So in terms of aspirations, I think I almost kind of got to my point. Kit's my boss, so I probably, is very, very good. I don't want to be him at the moment, or just not yet. But yeah, I really enjoyed working for Welsh Water. I think as soon as I joined, it was very much a nice family feel. Someone said to me the other month that it's different to working in a water company in England because you're technically working for and providing water to a country rather than an individual element of England, which may sound a bit weird, but actually it kind of gives you a little bit more incentive and a bit more passion to kind of to do well. I'm not from Wales, as you can tell by the accent, and my mum and dad always said, or when I said I was moving to Wales, they said, you never used to like going there as a kid. I was like this high, so but I really like Wales, and you know, going to West Wales and North Wales and seeing some of the scenery, etc., just adds to the nice elements of this job. So yeah, that's me.